Welcome to this week's episode of The Providers. I got Steve Ackright back in the studio with me. How's it going, man?
Good. Things are
Good.
going good.
Awesome. We got some fun stuff to cover this week. We've got a recap on some youth hunts. We've got goose hunting to talk about and the ever hot, questionable topic of doe hunting. It'll be a fun episode. Hang out with us.
Sitting in my tree stand, watching the leaves land, praying for a little love. Cause it's opening day and us pass through boys looking to drag out a big old buck.
So the youth hunt, did you get a chance to get out?
Oh, man. This year was one of those years for the youth hunt that life just kind of took over for me. So I don't know about you, but it was a busy weekend in the household this weekend. And I mean, Sam had a varsity game over by Flint or past Flint. And I told him I had to work on Saturday. So as it was, Ron was going to take him out. And I was like, hey, are you going to go? And Sam looked at me like, are you crazy? Yeah, why wouldn't I go? And I'm like, well, you're going to have a late game. So, or it's going to be late by the time you get back.
Right.
So that night, it's probably midnight by the time he's settling in. And he's like, yeah, I'm out. So he didn't go then. And then we had a birthday party Saturday night for my nephew who just turned 9. So that was cool. So Renee was like, yeah, you're not going hunting again. You're going to go to that birthday party, which is fine. It was good. And then Saturday night, there was a big boxing match that Max and his buddies were over watching, and Sam was all involved with. And, again, he's like, yeah, I'm not going to go in the morning. So then it wound up being Sunday evening. We got out. It was great getting out with him, though, like just being back in the woods and kind of settling in. And he's talked to me about hunting stories on the way there, and he brought up a few things in the blind, and so it was pretty cool. We had a few does come in, one small one, probably 30 yards broadside right in front of us, and he's sitting here with a 350 Legend in his hand, and
It was hot, too.
oh yeah,
Like
yeah,
85 degrees hot. It was
yeah.
crazy. I was kind of glad I wasn't out, to be honest with you. I kind of had the opposite happen. Number one, we knew my daughter wasn't going to get out. She had a soccer tournament this weekend, so that wrapped up pretty much all day of Saturday and Sunday for us. But I went and bought her a new 350. This is going to be the first year she's going to try to shoot a deer. So I called up Joe the other day and I said, "Hey, can I swing over? I need to sight in this 350. I've got it bore sighted, but I want to shoot it at 100 yards before I start letting Callie pull the trigger." Yeah, swing over. So get out of work, run over to Joe's house, out in the middle of the country, out in the middle of a bean field. And the back side of the bean field is corn. We just set the target up in the bean field, and the combine pulls in to start cutting silage for the corn.
Oh my gosh,
directly behind us.
What are the odds of that?
So we're like, okay, we're not sighting the gun in today. So I was like, are you serious? Of all the times of having a combine pull into the field. So
Right.
Still got to go sight in the 350. But the plan's going to be that her first hunt will probably be when we go down to Ohio that third week in November. So I'm going to get it sighted in, get her out where she can shoot a little bit in between soccer practices and cross country and stuff. But I have seen some pictures. Actually, a girl my daughter plays soccer with shot a beautiful 8-point in velvet. Super cool to see.
Nice.
Over in Mason. So there were definitely some kids that were successful, but the temperatures were not cooperating at all, I don't feel like. So, and goose hunting, have you got a chance?
No,
No?
I haven't even gotten out yet.
Didn't you say, I think I talked to you on the phone the other day, you were out scouting some property or something, though?
Yeah, like the thing with the goose hunting is first you gotta get the property. You know what I mean? You gotta get permission, and then the conditions got to be perfect. So, my fields are all going to be sweet cornfields. For once it's harvested, it'll be game on. So that'll be good. I've locked in like I think 3, maybe 4 this year that are going to be money, and just got to wait for things to happen throughout the season. Hopefully the timing's right and they cut the fields at the right time.
I saw where they were cutting the some of the fields up at MSU into the silage, so they're obviously out way earlier than a normal harvest. But man, the geese are just loading into those
Yeah.
fields right now. So
And those fields are good too, but those are so hard to hide in when they do it for silage. Like you just don't have all of the cover that's left when they, do the traditional, just for the corn. So
right. Well, so now we're 2 weeks out, just a little over from opening day of bow season here in Michigan, which is going to be awesome if the temperatures finally start to drop. Maybe
yeah, that's crazy.
we were just talking about, doe hunting, and back when we were filming the providers, how we actually came up with a good way to get some does off the property early that we ended up making into a video that turned out pretty cool. But we went over to Joe Ream's house. I don't even know what we had, 10 guys, 12 guys.
Probably. We made a whole weekend of it. It was pretty sweet.
We had either 5 or 6 groups of 2. We partnered up with a hunter and a cameraman, and then flip-flop between the 2. And it gave us a chance. In the morning, we'd get up, we'd all split up, go to our own properties, see who could knock down a doe. Everybody blowing up each other's phones. Like, it was
I think
so
that
awesome.
was the first time we met AJ, or when AJ came to hunt with us for the first time. And he showed up with a Ford Escort, and
That's
it was
right.
loaded like to the ceiling with equipment, and like
I forgot about that. Yeah, that was that was a good one. I know I was with Todd Bowen that weekend. I'm assuming you were with Ron. Were you with Ron?
No, Ron filmed his brother-in-law.
So he was with Rob.
He was with Rob, and then we got back and we probably shot 4 or 5 does altogether probably that weekend.
I think it was more than that.
Was it?
We'll link the video to this.
I can't remember that.
It was fun, but there were a lot of deer that got killed. I think Gary Holland shot 2 in one hunt. I know
Okay.
I killed 1, Todd killed 1, Rob killed 1.
I don't think I killed.
I don't know if you were. We'll have to go back and watch it. It's been a while, but
I might have been with Eric, maybe.
Oh, you could have been, because I think Joe
Yeah.
was with Gary.
Yeah.
I don't-
Anyways, so we had all these does hanging, and then Ron shows up with his brother-in-law Rob, and they bring it into the barn. And first of all, we were on a doe mission, and it was like, all right, we're getting does. This is gonna be awesome. This is like what it's all about. And I think Rob was excited to be out there with us, and he was excited to be on camera. And he shoots this doe. And then, of course, Ron was encouraging him to shoot it. And when he brought it
Which
back,
Ron always did.
yeah, Ron. If Ron's behind the camera, he's like, shoot it.
And if there's a tag in your pocket,
Right.
yeah, it better go down.
So they show up at the barn with this doe that was quite a bit smaller than the rest. And then Ron played that.
Milk dripping off its chin.
Ron starts razzing him. All of us start razzing him a little bit. And Ron played If I Die Young. It was the funniest thing ever.
Yes.
Oh, my God. It was so funny.
But those backstraps were delicious and tender.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very, very tender.
But kind of leads me to another, like years following that, I really got into that early doe hunt with the purpose of the first deer I take, I'm going to donate. So I started doing that for years, and that worked out pretty well. You just take it to your local processor and tell them that you're going to donate it. I mean, it costs you your tag, but that's it. And then it goes to that Hunters Against Hunger. So it's a pretty sweet program.
Yeah, if you haven't got a chance to check that out, I think it was Hunters Against Hunger, and then there was possibly another one. If you Google search that, there are a couple really good opportunities that you can just go shoot a deer, drop it off. I think maybe it's only certain processors that take them, but I think those are listed also on the websites. But such a cool way to be able to go out, take a deer. I'm not a wildlife biologist, but I was thinking about this the other day. If a doe gets shot in the early season on your property and you've got a bunch of does. Deer don't have social media like we do. Deer don't have news like we do, where every other deer in the area is going, oh my gosh, Shirley just got killed, right? And you've got all these bucks who are going to wrap up to their horniest time of the season. And I was like, this is basically like back in the college days when we were going out to the bar to get chicks. And if you walked into the bar and there were no chicks at the bar, you didn't say, oh man, it's over, we're just done. You know, you went to another bar and you kept looking until you found chicks.
Right.
And if there's less chicks on your property, those bucks are going to work harder to find the next chick. And if your farm is loaded with does, those bucks don't have to travel anywhere. Then why would they want to leave? They're right where they want to be, right? So if we can shoot a couple does early season, you know, make those bucks work a little bit harder. Now, if you only have one doe on your farm, probably not shoot it. You know, you got to have some draw there. But if you're seeing 20, 30 deer a night eating out in your field, I think it's great to take a couple of them out early. And then when prime rut time comes, those bucks have to work a little bit harder.
Right. And if you notice, like, there's a lot of times where, unlike Greg Francis that throws everything but the kitchen sink at a deer when it comes through, a lot of times our calls don't work all that well in Michigan. Sometimes they will, but a lot of times they just tuck their tail and they're gone. But if your buck to doe ratio is where it should be, you throw a call out there, that buck's going to turn and be like, yeah, like that's, you know, could be a doe bleat, whatever. He's going to be searching, you know. But if you have too many does, he's going to be like, well, I'll find the next one, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, let's be real. In Michigan, the doe to buck ratio is way out of whack.
Right.
There's just way too many of them, and if you're really in it to make a healthy deer herd, and have the deer have enough browse to be able to eat and function through the winter and provide for the fawns and that type of thing. Like I said, I am not a deer scientist, but I do understand the basics behind the fact that less deer means more food for the deer that's available to eat. Right. And if you drive anywhere through southern Michigan, you look at the browse line on trees, you can tell that the deer have just devoured anything and everything in its path because there's so many of them. They're all just scrounging for food. None of them are probably at peak health because they're starving themselves to death because there's too many of them trying to eat in the same general places.
And the other topic on does is when to shoot them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because so last night we're sitting in the blind and Sam looks at me and he's like, you want me to shoot a doe if it comes in? My instant response was, no. He goes, and then I thought about it. I'm like, well, if you want to, I have a doe tag for you. If you want to, you can. And he says, no, you said no, so we're not going to do that. I said no instantly because it's 80 degrees, 85 degrees.
85,
like,
yeah.
If I don't have to deal with a deer tonight, I'm not gonna, you know, so.
Right.
So it's kind of, that's where that donating a deer helps because I like to process my own if I can. Or, you know, I want it to be a nice size, good deer if I take it into a processor or whatever. But sometimes it's just hard because of the weather. And then other times it's like, okay, let's take a doe early in the season. That should be good. But then you're all ramped up saying, wait, I've been watching this buck all summer. He could come in, so I don't want to screw that up. And then you get into pre-rut and rut, and you're like, why would I shoot a doe? Because there's going to be a buck following, you know? And then after that, then people go, well, that doe's probably been bred, so I don't want to shoot her now. So it's like when to pull the trigger, when to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, and I'm right there with you where I always tell myself, first doe I see when season opens, I'm shooting her.
Yeah. That's the best way to do it.
And then, like you said, it's 90 degrees out that day, and you're like, oh, do I want to shoot her? If I do shoot her, is she going to run into the bedding area? Do I want to go track into the bedding area on opening day of the season? But I personally look at it as if you have a couple of hunting options, then maybe you can shoot a doe and get out of there for a couple weeks. And like I said, there's no social media, there's no news outlet telling all the other deer, oh my gosh, a hunter came in and shot one. You know, I think if you leave it undisturbed for a little bit, everything goes about its merry way. They're just one less sitting on the farm. But I think it's good to shoot one early. I personally, if I'm gonna put meat in my own freezer, I like it to be a doe. I think the meat's
Oh man,
better.
back in the day, I don't even know if Renee and I were married yet. She was saying, "Okay, I like that you're going out hunting, but just don't shoot a doe. Just don't shoot that mama doe. Just leave her alone." And then that happened for a couple of years, and then I was like, "Yeah, sorry, I shot a doe." And then we were definitely married and living together at that point, and all of a sudden we're eating this venison, and she's like, "What meat is this?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "This is so good." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's the doe." And then all of a sudden it was green light. Yeah, go ahead and shoot any doe you want.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people think that they just have to shoot bucks or whatever, and that's everybody's choice. I don't care one way or another, but I do personally feel like does taste better.
Right.
But some of it's the region you're hunting in and that type of thing too, I'm sure. But just something about how tender the meat is on a doe. I like to shoot a doe early, get it in the freezer, and then, you know, we're a family of 4. We eat maybe a deer and a half a year, somewhere between a deer and a half. If I have tags left and I shoot something else, and it's getting donated to somebody, you know, either a friend that wants it or the Hunters Against Hungry, and it's just, I don't know. I like pulling the trigger on stuff, and I think they're delicious, so I like shooting mine early. But I know it's controversial. There's lots of people out there, especially in Michigan, I feel like, that are like, "Oh, if I'm going to shoot a deer, it's going to be a buck. I'm not a pansy that shoots does." You know, I feel like that's changed a little bit. I feel like that was more the older generation that thought that way.
I still think there's a lot of guys that do not want to show up at Thanksgiving and see the family members they haven't seen in a while and be like, "Well, what'd you get this year?" There's always the guy that's like, "Well, I got a 6-point." And, you know, or, you know, whatever. And that's fine, you know, as long as you're happy with it. But I've seen guys where there's a 6-point and a doe, and he shoots a little 6 instead of shooting that big old doe. It's like, you're crazy. But they get to say, "Hey, I
shot a buck. Shot a buck."
Right.
And you're 100% right that, everybody wants to say they shot a buck. And, you know, I think there was a time in our life that maybe we were the same way. So I think, again,
there was a time in my life that a 6-point made me shake out of the tree. So, and if that's what's happening, shoot it.
100%.
You know what I mean? 100%.
If your heart's pumping, you better be pulling the trigger, because
just don't, like, I've done it where I've shot a deer and then walked up to it and was like, I shouldn't have shot that. Like, that's, you know, so.
Would that be like a story we have where somebody shot the biggest buck of their life?
Oh, good Lord, don't even start that.
No, we have to tell that story. That quite possibly could be one of my most memorable hunting stories of all time, was being up at Ethan's cottage up in the Baldwin area. And, I mean, their family had what?
Dude, it was 1 square mile of property that we had. 1 square mile. And we could hunt the whole thing. Like, it was so
private
sweet.
land. It was owned by
like an association or something like that. Yeah.
But it was small, like 6 or 10 families or something like that. But
There's
none of the other
on it,
and none of the other families hunted.
Yeah, it was just like free reign to do what we wanted and hunt. And heck, that year we took 8 of us probably.
Yeah.
And it was typical fashion of Ron, right? We go out and back then we weren't like, it wasn't the automatic cell phone situation like communicating like crazy. We just come back to the cabin. Everybody tells their stories of what was going on.
Hang on just a second. Let's back up.
All right.
Because I'm pretty sure this was the same year. So we had just started filming. And I was with Ron, one of the first hunts that weekend. And I was going to film him. So we had our climbers and we go out to this spot and there's this big open clearing. And I think there was one tree that was straight. And it the first branch was at like 15 feet. So I go up in my climber because when we were hunting with climbers, the cameraman was always a little bit above the hunter, right?
Yeah.
And I climb as high as I possibly can. So the top of mine is at this 15-foot branch, right?
Right.
Which now puts my platform of my feet at maybe 12 foot.
Oh, God.
And then Ron climbs up and puts his top at my 12 foot. So his feet are at like 8 feet off the ground. And we're in the only tree in the middle of this clearing. So we stand out like a sore thumb.
Which would work if you had a bunch of cover.
Yeah,
but
like any cover at all.
It's basically like a telephone
We're on a
pole.
telephone pole in the middle of an open field, basically, at 8 feet off the ground. And Ron has never cared what he wore when he hunted. So it's like,
oh God, I know
it's like the first week of October, and Ron has on a bright orange camo winter hunting coat, and it's like 80 degrees outside.
Looking like a huge pumpkin.
Yeah, and we're 8 feet off the ground. And this group of does walks in on us. They must have been half blind because they walk into like 8 yards. Ron pulls back. They were so close to us that he shoots under the doe with his 20-yard pin. The doe runs off. Ron grabs another arrow, knocks it up. He's like, "Can you see her? Can you see her?" I'm like, "I think so." She's like 80 yards away. Boom, there goes the arrow.
Oh my God.
Obviously launches another one over her back. So that was how the week started with Ron up there.
God.
And then I was not with him when the next part of the story happened.
So we only had the one camera at the time, I think.
It might have been.
Was like everybody just split up. So I think that night you and I might have hunted together.
Yeah.
And then Ron was off on his own. And
No
Ron,
cell service.
Right. Ron comes back to camp. We all come back and we had dinner was going. We were, just settling in, and Ron's like, "Guys, I swear to you, I just shot the biggest buck of my life." And we're like all locked in, like, "Oh my God."
Oh yeah, we were so pumped.
It was like, what? So then we're like, okay, we got to give it time. And then let's do everything right.
Let's eat dinner.
We're going to eat dinner. We're going to relax. Like, so let's just give it. I was like, if my rule of thumb is, I don't know about you, my rule of thumb is, especially with bow hunting, if you don't see it go down, it's a 2-hour rule for me. So you got to give them 2 hours, make sure everything's good. And then you can go so that you're not bumping deer, like having it run.
Right.
So we go, we have like, I think it was like super good chili that night or something.
It was
like,
cool, but I think if I remember right, I finished dinner before everybody else.
Hold on, my fat ass is thinking about food. We were eating chili that night, and it was going to be amazing.
And it was.
And there was a nice fresh bowl right in front of
Oh
me.
yeah, yeah. And then I finished mine first, and I went out because this cabin was so small. We all had hunting totes out on the front porch. Remember, we didn't have room for clothes anywhere else. I went out to grab something out of my tote, and it had started to rain.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember running back in the door, and I was like, "Guys, it's raining," and it became like mad scramble.
It was like we
didn't
all
want blood
firefighters, and like the
Yes.
alarm went off. We were just like throwing boots on and leaving.
Yeah, we were so afraid we were going to lose blood.
I was devastated leaving my food.
Well, and up there, it's hard enough to find blood because everything is ferns.
Yeah.
So, I mean, rain was going to wash blood off if there was anything. So, mad dash.
Oh my gosh, we're jumping in trucks, flying over to a spot.
Yeah, we get to a spot. We find blood, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And we're like, oh yeah, Ron's pumped. Like Ron's like, oh yeah.
And then we found a lot of blood,
Uh-huh.
and then it crossed a river.
Yep.
Ethan didn't have boots big enough, so I had to give him a piggyback
Right,
ride across
right.
the river.
Yeah. Oh, nothing was stopping us though.
We tracked this thing forever, and it had a huge blood trail, and we were like, there's no way we're not finding this deer, but it seemed like we tracked it further than what we thought we were gonna. And we're tracking, we finally come up to a deer, and we're like, yes, here it is. We're all excited. Like, all of us are like, this is his
Biggest
big
deer
buck.
of Ron's life.
Biggest buck of his life. We walk up to it. It had one horn from about the first knuckle on your pinky. It was the smallest buck.
It might have been the smallest legal buck I've ever seen.
It was so small. The look on his face. We were like, what happened? He goes, well, I was all excited.
It was
It's
getting
like-
dark.
Like 6 or 8 point came, and they're the one behind the little one that he wound up shooting was grunting, and it was behind this 6 point. So he's like, I didn't even look for horns. I was like, this is gonna be a monster.
The bigger deer's behind.
The bigger deer's behind it.
Yep.
So, and he's grunting and like sounds like a beast. Oh my god, we laughed so hard.
That deer had to have been like 60 pounds, soaking wet.
Yeah, but even then we had tracked so far and went across the river, we were like, oh, we have to get this out of here.
We probably could have just packed it in Ron's backpack and let him just walk out with it.
Oh my gosh. That was quite a moment right there.
That became
Good
the
Lord.
longest running story because I think somebody cut the antlers off of that or the skull
Think
plate.
so, yeah.
It became a trophy.
Yeah.
And then Ron, for years, has heard, I just shot the biggest buck of my life.
Definitely didn't live that one down. Oh my gosh.
So yeah, I think shooting does is fun. I think going out with your buddies and doing it beforehand, if you're looking for a reason to go shoot does, it was a blast when we got a bunch of guys together and just said,
Yeah.
hey, no bucks this weekend. Let's see how many does we can kill. And
Right.
everybody getting together back at camp and hanging out and cooking fresh back straps and playing guitars, listening to music, getting up with your buddies, doing the same thing the next morning. That was a fun weekend. And yeah, I think I'm pro shooting does. I know that much. But, well, give everybody a chance to take a break here from us for a week. They've heard us talk enough about Ron's horror stories of the past. So
That was a fun one.
it was a fun one. So, all right. Well, tune in next week. We're going to be coming at you with another fun episode on Monday. And we'll see what we can throw together to bring to you. If you want to hear us talk about something, feel free to throw a question up on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, any of that. We're now on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. You can watch the videos live on the YouTube channel. Lots of fun ways to interact with us. We're having a blast doing this. So we'll catch you guys next week.
Thanks. Hey, why did you use the name Shirley for that doe?
I don't know.
Because she's surely dead?
She was surely dead.
Surely dead.